it!
In November 1992, Walt Disney Feature Animation released their 31st animated film, Aladdin. Released near the middle of their Disney Renaissance period and coming off the heels of the critically acclaimed Beauty and the Beast, it was a similar smash hit at the box office and is still considered a Disney classic today. Since it was also released in the early 90s, there were plenty of video games released for it. While there have been plenty of Aladdin games, the two that are the most well remembered are those for the Sega Genesis and the Super Nintendo. I didn't get to play them since I was about 3 months old at the time, but I did get to play them years later. However, I was well aware of the two games, and it was only very recently that I got to play the two back to back, so I thought it'd be interesting to talk about some of the interesting trivia about these two games, especially since most videos I see just talk about which one is better. Honestly, both versions are worth playing if you have the Disney Classic Games collection. I'm gonna start with the Genesis version since there's a ton to talk about. Two of the notable things about the game is that Aladdin uses a sword, which becomes relevant later, and the fact that Virgin Interactive, who made the game, worked with Disney Feature Animation on it. As in, they had the animators on the movie make sketches of the movements the developers needed and then scan them in, and then retraced over them with different pixels. This process was called the Digicel process, and it was actually initially developed for the Jungle Book first. This was to meet with the re-release of the film around the 90s. However, the Jungle Book game was put on hold so that Virgin could focus on Aladdin, which allowed them a head start with the Digicel process. Now, with the Disney Classic Games collection, it reveals a lot of development of the game, along with the early trade show build, which features a handful of changes, such as enemies like the Sword Swallower that were cut, and changed aspects like the checkpoint systems and health pickups. In fact, the entire Genie level was radically changed from how you moved, and, well, the music is also missing. With their solid partnership with Disney, Virgin was also able to include a whole bunch of Disney Easter eggs, such as Goofy's face in some of the Pillars in the Desert level, Sebastian the Crab in one of the dungeon levels, the Beast from Beauty and the Beast showing up in these animal towers, which is also in the movie itself, and the most well-known being the Mickey Mouse ears in the desert, which if you align with them just right with Aladdin will reveal a 1-up. My favorite is one in the dungeon level with this dog with a key in its mouth, and a hand trying to lure it with a bone, which is a reference to the Pirates of the Caribbean attraction at various Disney parks. The Genesis version is also notable for the amount of ports that it got throughout the years, with some even appearing on Nintendo handhelds. Although, an interesting note is that the version that's the most accurate to the movie is the one for the Sega Master System, unlike the Genesis version which heavily abridged the story. Sadly, unlike the Genesis version, the Super Nintendo version didn't have that much information on it, but there's still some to talk about.
Would you look at that? Just a handful of this stuff would...
Capcom.
Why the Super Nintendo version is so drastically different. Namely, Aladdin doesn't use a sword, he more jumps on enemies. That's because, at the time, Capcom had the right to make Disney games for Nintendo systems, of which there were a lot of games. An interesting note is that there's actually 2 credit sequences. One for if you normally beat the game, and one if you collect 70 red gems, which I was able to do for the first time getting footage for this video. If you look at the credits during the ending, you may notice a bunch of interesting credit names, the most famous being Salaryman, which is actually Shinji Ikami, who's also well known for creating Resident Evil. To help promote the game, a special VHS was created for the Capcom Craze Club, although I heard that there were some VHS tapes that were sent out randomly.
Just think, now not only can you watch Aladdin, you can be Aladdin. If I had a genie and 3 wishes, I'd wish we could get a sneak preview of the game. Wow, Wow, the colors and graphics are really cool.
As far as I can tell, this was really the only commercial in the United States. Interestingly, they didn't push the genie all that much, which might be due to the well-known Robin Williams conflict with Disney at the time. This also affected the Japanese box art, which couldn't have the genie on it. I also have a slight theory that maybe Disney was pushing the Genesis version more since they had more direct involvement with it, unlike with Capcom. Unlike the Genesis version, before 2021, there was really only one other port of the game, which was for the Game Boy Advance. At first glance, it would seem to be straightforward, but this isn't quite the case. Extra stages were added to the levels, the password system was replaced with a save system, and oddly enough, the music was changed. Yeah, 2 notable songs are in the Capcom version, Friend Like Me and A Whole New World. These 2 were completely removed and replaced with different music. The replacement for Friend Like Me is alright, it's not great. And the Whole New World replacement is, well... Now, I have no direct reason as to why the music was changed. More than likely it was a music copyright issue. That would be my best guess. So, those were some fun bits of trivia that I was able to find for the 2 games that came out at a very interesting time. I honestly suggest you try them out now, especially with the Disney Classic Games collection, so you can play them back to back, and find out why they're just some diamonds in the rough.